We often think about making a difference, in our communities
Right.
by focusing on what we need to do first, the plans we make, who we reach out to.
Right, our initiatives.
Exactly. But what if some of that groundwork was already done? What if there are people out there right now who are sort of uniquely positioned for connection, almost like they've been prepared? That's the idea behind this person of peace concept, and it's what we're really digging into today.
So if you're trying to figure out how to connect effectively, maybe identify key people in a group without, getting lost in theory, this deep dive should be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And our goal isn't just like defining the term. We want to get into where it comes from, what these people are actually like,
Sure.
their characteristics.
Okay.
And really the practical side, how recognizing them gives you actionable ways to make a positive impact in whatever community you're invested in. We're pulling from different explorations of this, including some pretty insightful examples from biblical texts. Okay, so it's not just a feel-good idea. It actually has roots. Where does this person of peace idea originate? It sounds quite specific.
Well, the core really comes straight from Jesus' instructions to his disciples. It's in Luke chapter 10, verses 3 to 7.
Luke 10, okay.
Yeah, when he sent them out into new towns, the advice he gave was incredibly practical for, finding their way in unfamiliar places. He basically said, look for someone who welcomes you and is open to your message.
So it wasn't just like talk to absolutely everyone you meet. There was a strategy.
Absolutely, a deliberate one. The idea underneath it all is that God might already be at work in communities, preparing certain people to be receptive.
So the harvest can come before the sowing, in a sense.
Exactly that. That's a phrase sometimes used. The disciples weren't just told to preach randomly. They were guided to find those specific people God had already prepared. Pray first, then look.
That really flips the script on how we usually approach things. So,
Yeah.
Okay, prayer is step one. But once you're actually engaging, what are the signs? How do you spot this person of peace? What stands out?
Well, there are several characteristics that pop up again and again in the sources we looked at. The first one is pretty straightforward. Receptivity.
Okay.
It echoes Luke 10.6, which mentions a son of peace. This person just shows a genuine eagerness for connection. They're willing to listen, not immediately defensive or closed off.
Receptivity makes sense. You want to invest where it's welcomed.
Right.
What else? What's another key indicator?
Another really crucial one is their reputation in the community. And this is where it gets interesting.
I'm sorry.
Because this reputation, it could be positive or it could actually be quite negative.
Really?
Negative, yeah.
Think about the story of the Gerasene demoniac in Mark 5. I mean, this guy was an outcast, known for being uncontrollable, living among tombs, a terrible reputation.
Right. Definitely not the person you'd intuitively seek out first. Exactly. But after his encounter and transformation, he became this incredibly powerful witness in his whole region, a person of peace.
Wow. Okay, so a difficult past or even a bad reputation doesn't disqualify someone.
Not at all. There's this vivid analogy one source uses: manure makes good soil.
Okay.
Someone who's been through a lot, maybe even has a controversial past, might be precisely the person God is working deeply in. Their transformation becomes even more impactful.
That definitely shifts the perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so receptivity, reputation, good or bad? What's another trait?
They are often people of referral. They have influence within their oikos.
Oikos?
Yeah, it's a Greek word. Think of it as more than just their immediate family. It's their whole network: close friends, extended family, coworkers, people they see regularly.
Yeah.
Their sphere of influence.
Got it. Their social circle.
Exactly. They're kind of like that lead fish in a school that others follow. They naturally connect you to a wider group within their existing relationships.
So they're not just receptive themselves, they act as a bridge to others. That sounds incredibly strategic, efficient.
It really can be. Another clue is just welcoming and hospitable behavior.
Like Luke 10 again.
Yep. They'll likely invite you in, speak kindly, offer you something. Basic hospitality. You should also look for compassion and maybe a shared vision. They tend to care deeply about their community already and resonate with wanting things to be better.
That makes sense. If they're already invested emotionally, they're more likely to jump on board with positive change.
Precisely. And often, this person of peace already sees the need for change themselves. They might have been thinking or even praying about it for a while.
So you might find common ground pretty quickly.
Yeah, sometimes there's an almost instant friendly connection. And they often just naturally start opening doors to others for you. Some sources even mention that they might already be doing significant things for their community, demonstrating their influence and commitment.
And they might understand the needs better than an outsider.
Absolutely. Their grasp of the community's real issues might be far deeper than your initial assessment. They often feel a real sense of ownership, a responsibility for their tribe, their people.
Like a protectiveness.
Yeah, and sometimes it goes even deeper. It's described in some writings as a kind of Moses syndrome prayer, this passionate pleading for their community's well-being, like, God, give me my people. A real deep burden.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Powerful imagery. Are there more subtle signs too?
There can be. Sometimes they have a compelling personal story, maybe overcoming significant hardship, which leads to this real humility, a servant-heartedness. Their own brokenness makes them empathetic.
Mm.
You might also sense this urgency in them, maybe even frustration or anger that their community hasn't heard a particular message or had certain opportunities before. It fuels their drive, and they're usually eager to share whatever positive thing they've found within their immediate circle, opening their oikos.
So it's a deep commitment.
It often is, and sometimes, because they take such a strong stance, they might face pushback, maybe even persecution or suffering. Their security level can become discomforting for others because they're so bold.
That's a serious consideration.
It is. And interestingly, despite their potential influence, finding them isn't always easy. It often requires real persistence in prayer and searching. Don't give up too quickly.
Right.
There's also this possibility that they might have had prior spiritual experiences, dreams, visions, things like that, that didn't quite lead to saving faith at the time, but sort of prepared the ground.
Pre-conversion encounters.
Potentially. And then, after they do embrace faith, they might receive a very specific God-given vision for their people, their community.
That's a really rich, detailed picture. It sounds like identifying someone like this is, well, very intentional, very prayerful. So let's say you think you found someone who fits this description. How do you actually build that relationship effectively?
Well, the foundation has to be genuine friendship. They need to know you actually care about them, not just seeing them as a means to an end.
Right. Building trust.
Exactly. Trust is everything. It's
Yeah.
built through real connection, being consistent, showing support, and practically accepting their hospitality is huge.
Like in Luke 10, again, eat what is set before you.
Precisely. Be gracious, accept invitations. It builds rapport. Regular fellowship, just spending time together consistently, is vital. They need to see your values lived out over time.
So it's about relationship first, not just the mission.
Absolutely. That consistent, trustworthy presence. One really practical strategy suggested is forming a prayer triad.
A prayer triad.
Yeah, like you, the person of peace, and maybe one other prayer partner, focusing specifically on praying for key individuals within their network, their community. Praying together for specific people can be incredibly unifying and powerful.
I can see that. What else?
Regular mentoring is important too, sharing your vision, your knowledge, your resources, helping them see the bigger picture maybe. But crucially, remember your role. You're the coach, the equipper. They are the player on the field. The goal is for them to lead, for them to take ownership within their context. You're coming alongside to empower them.
Empowering, not creating dependency. That makes sense. What about the long-term picture? Do you stay involved forever?
That's a really key point. Having an exit strategy, or maybe better put, a transition plan, is vital.
An exit strategy.
Yeah, being clear, maybe even from early on, that the goal is for them to eventually take the reins fully. Think about how the Apostle Paul operated. He'd establish something and then move on, trusting the local leadership.
Okay.
Having a general time frame can help. Often, an initial period of intensive coaching and support, maybe, say, under 6 months, is suggested as often being enough to get things rolling without creating unhealthy long-term dependence.
So come alongside, equip, empower, and then intentionally step back.
That's generally the ideal, yes. Now, are there exceptions? Sure. Maybe some very unstable situations might seem to need longer-term outside support for stability.
Yeah.
But the caution is that staying too long, even with good intentions, can actually stifle the natural growth and multiplication of that local leadership. It can inadvertently hinder what you're trying to build.
Okay, so we've talked about finding them, building the relationship. What about the flip side? What stops us? What are the barriers to actually finding a person of peace?
Yeah, good question. One big one is often called the ever-present tyranny of the good.
The tyranny of the good.
It means getting stuck doing lots of good things, worthwhile activities even, but ones that aren't the most strategic thing, which is finding that key person. You get distracted by less impactful busyness.
Okay. Spreading yourself too thin on secondary things.
Exactly. Another barrier is just the calendar and the clock, trying to force the process, rushing it. Finding and building trust with the right person takes discernment. It takes time. You can't just schedule it like a meeting.
Patience is key then.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the third big one is simply fear. Fear of rejection, fear of stepping out into the unknown, fear of praying boldly and asking God to show you this person, fear of what might happen if you actually find them. Fear can paralyze the search.
Those all sound like very real obstacles.
Yeah.
Easy to fall into. Now, you mentioned biblical examples earlier. Can you just quickly recap how those stories illustrate this person of peace principle?
Sure. You look at the Gerasene demoniac in Mark 5, his transformation leads to him telling everyone in his region. Zacchaeus in Luke 19, his encounter immediately impacts his household, and it involves restitution in the community.
Right.
The woman at the well in John 4, she goes and brings her whole Samaritan town out to meet Jesus. The man born blind in John 9 becomes this incredibly bold witness despite opposition.
Yeah.
Cornelius in Acts 10, a Gentile, already seeking God, prepared ground for Peter's message to reach non-Jews. Lydia in Acts 16, a businesswoman whose household becomes a base for the church. The Philippian jailer, again in Acts 16, his conversion immediately impacts his family.
So it's a recurring pattern.
It really seems to be. Each one was someone God appeared to have prepared in their specific context, and their response opened doors for many others around them.
So shifting focus from just like sowing seeds everywhere and hoping some land on good soil to actively looking for the soil God has already prepared. Finding someone influential whose heart is open.
Precisely. It flips the traditional sow, then maybe harvest model. Jesus seemed to teach, find the harvest first, find the person of peace, and then sow generously within their network. It emphasizes God's sovereignty in placing these people. And if you look and pray and just don't find that receptive person in a place, maybe that's a sign to move on and look elsewhere.
Wow. This has been really illuminating, a deep dive into the person of peace concept that offers a genuinely different way to think about engaging with communities. So what's the main thing you hope listeners walk away with?
I think the key takeaway is just that this person of peace idea isn't just theory. It's a strategic, biblical, and potentially much more fruitful way to approach community connection and influence. It's about partnering with the work God may already be doing by identifying and investing in those individuals. He's prepared.
Right. So a final thought for you, the listener. Think about a community or a network you're involved in, or one you care about, who just maybe could be a person of peace within that group. What might it look like to genuinely connect with them, to support them, maybe pray for them? How could this principle change how you approach things?
It's definitely something powerful to mull over. And if this has sparked your interest, definitely check out the source material for more detail. There's always more to learn.